Can I eat it? Can I have sex with it? Will it kill me? You'll know why those 3 questions can help you make more sales. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Weinschenk for the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we have Dr. Susan Weinschenk. She is the author of many books. A few of them I will list here. 100 Things Every Designer Needs to Know About People. Voices that matter. 100 More Things Every Designer Needs to Know About People. How to get people to do stuff. Master the art and science of persuasion and motivation. And finally, neuro web design. What makes them click? So, Dr. Weinschenk is a super smart individual, but she has applied her knowledge in psychology to help entrepreneurs, web designers, business owners be more persuasive. And that's why I open with those 3 questions, because it applies to what we as humans are asking ourselves every minute of every day, especially when we have to make a decision. So when you know how to address those, how to engage those questions, how to turn it around, how to apply it to your prospects, you are going to get better at sales. So you have come to the right place. Now, if you would like to also get better at sales for free, join us at theimplementors.com. That will take you to the free Facebook page. Come hang out with us, ask me questions, engage with other listeners, and get advice and tips on growing your sales. If you're really fired up and dedicated to growing your sales, check out makeeverysale.com. That's my on-demand program. 41 videos, handouts, workbook. Here's my baby girl coming in to check on me. You get all of that and more at makeeverysale.com. Now, let's bring on our guest. Dr. Susan Weinschenk, all the way from Wisconsin, PhD in psychology, but you have promised not to evaluate my psychosis live on the episode, right? So welcome.
Did I promise that?
Welcome to the Sales Podcast. Don't make me end this early. I mean, I have a reputation to protect, you know. I have some friends, they do handwriting analysis. And,
that would be
I met them years ago, and then a friend of mine said, "Oh, yeah, graphology." I was like, "Is that?" I had to Google it. I'm like, "How'd you know that, man?" And then I would only type them letters. I would never handwrite. I'm like, they might call the police on me. I don't know. They said I was kind of normal though, so I really wonder about how effective they really were.
They were just saying that.
I digress. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for carving out some time. So for our listeners, I ran across you on LinkedIn, and I love, what you have here. Behavioral scientist. I write, speak, teach, consult, and play at the intersection of behavior and design. So we're talking about applying brain science and psychology to predict, understand, and explain what motivates people and how they behave. Amen. I've always told people, it's like, I think humans are maybe more predictable than machines, right? If we know what to look for and kind of how to push their buttons. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, I think, and I think in many ways humans are predictable, but they're also really complicated.
Right.
And how they behave depends on a lot of different factors. So that's why sometimes it seems unpredictable just because there's a lot of factors to take into account.
So are you saying my wife is complicated? I mean,
I am not going to say
it's really simple. I like if I scream out the door right now, "Where's my coffee?" I know I'll get like a hammer to the head. I mean, it's very, very predictable, right? I mean, I don't think she's complicated at all.
I do not do marital counseling.
For that reason, huh? So, all right. The other thing it says here, my consulting includes applying behavior science to the design of websites. So my listeners, we're going to get into that. Website software, medical devices, TV ads, presentations, experiences, and physical spaces. All right, should I hold my camera around? How's my physical space? It's a little cluttered over here, but I think I do have the big Pabst Blue Ribbon sign back there. So what does that say about me?
I'm not saying.
Oh,
no,
rats.
No.
Okay,
but I will have a secret report.
What's that?
I'll have a secret report.
Oh, I did. So Steven Sisler, I had him on a while back, and he's really good at breaking people down. He kind of goes beyond the DISC, assessments, and he's like eerie good. And so I did his report, and then the interview was him breaking me down.
Oh,
my gosh.
You don't need another one of those. You don't need another one of those.
That was a vulnerable moment. So, I want to get into, human beings and presentations and websites, because salespeople, well, first of all, business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople, they need to understand that human-to-human relationship is key. I think with artificial intelligence and so much digital media, texting and emails, we forget there's a human being on the other end of the screen, right?
It can get easy to forget. I actually think salespeople and business owners know a lot. That's a pretty savvy group when it comes to psychology, because if you don't know human psychology, you're not going to be in business for very long, most likely, if you have to deal with people. But I think what I find is a lot of times people don't know why some things work and other things don't work. So they have kind of an intuitive sense, which just means they've done it a lot, and they are unconsciously doing the things that work.
Right.
And so what I try and do, with the work that I do, is explain, okay, here's why this works and here's why this doesn't. And also I think as business owners, because I'm a small business owner myself, we tend to sometimes get stuck in a rut and do the same things over and over, even if they're not working. It should work. And we don't understand why it's not working and what we might do instead that would be more effective.
Right. About not quite a year and a half ago, I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it's the easiest hard sport in the world. I was rolling last night, and a guy, he's a brown belt, so very high up, rolling with a black belt. And he said, our sparring sessions are 6 minutes long. And he said he was trying to do this one thing over and over and over again. And they were done, and the black belt said, would you like to know how to defeat that defense? It's like, yeah, sure. And it was just this simple, instead of pounding to the left,
right,
roll them to the right.
Right.
That's it. So, jiu-jitsu is just 4,000 very easy moves. And you just have to know them and see what's coming a millisecond before the other guy, and you'll win. It's really very simple. That's how sales and human relationships are, right?
Yeah, very simple.
4,000 simple little things. You just have to detect them.
But they are it kind of is.
It is. I know. People think I'm just crazy, but I am crazy. But, sometimes I have these moments of brilliance, but we're not in tune. Why is that? Or we talk about getting in a rut. It's just the old comfort zone. Is it entropy, right? Just everything tends towards disorder. I don't want to learn anything new.
Well, actually, one of our tendencies as humans is to use what's called heuristics, rules of thumb.
Okay.
Basically, we don't want to think too much. We just, we are very good. Humans are very good at only expending as much mental energy as is really necessary. And that's a good thing. One of the things I say about all the, things that seem to make people irrational, or, when you get stuck in a rut, all these things that we do that we think, well, that's not good. Why do I do that? But all these things that we do, most of the time, they really serve us well. And, the human brain only has so much glucose, sugar in the brain. When you use it all up, you need to take a break. And so we conserve our mental and physical energy. And so because of that, we tend to go with rules of thumb. It's like, okay, in this situation, I'll just do this. I'll just do this. That'll be easy. But that's why we can get stuck in them, because we just tend to repeat the same things over and over. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't work. So you have to, stop and say, wait a minute. I need a new habit. I need a new reaction to when this happens. I need to teach myself a different way, just like you were saying in the martial arts you're doing.
So yeah, it's funny. I just had this discussion with a guest yesterday. And so let's break that down, because is that rooted all the way in the limbic system of the brain? Right? Is it going that deep? The old lizard brain? It can
go that deep. So if we look at, for instance, habits, right? And so you have physical habits. You also have mental habits. And, habits are conditioned responses that you've built up to a particular stimulus. So something happens and you react in a certain way. And it's really easy to create a habit. Sometimes people think, oh, it's so hard to create a habit, right? I mean, I want to change my habits. I want to eat better. I want to exercise more. That's so hard to do. It's actually not hard at all to create a habit. I mean, if you think about it, you have dozens, maybe hundreds of habits that you automatically do every day. And you didn't consciously create. I mean, you may have consciously created some of them, but a lot of them it's like, why do I do that? You just picked it up. We have these conditioned responses. I mean, for instance, our cell phones, right? I mean, if right now, I mean, I put my cell phone on airplane mode right now, so it wouldn't disturb us. But if I had forgotten to do that and it made a noise, right? Even though I'm on video and I'm talking to you and I don't want to, be disturbed, it would be really hard for me to ignore that cell phone, making the noise, right? As soon as the cell phone makes or does chirp or any noise, we just automatically reach for it with our hand. And that's because we have learned this conditioned response. So if you have a stimulus and when you take an action, you get a little bit of a chemical called dopamine being released in your brain, that strengthens that neuron circuit and makes it more likely that the next time that thing happens, you're going to react in the same way. So that's why it's so easy to create these habits. So if you want to create a new habit, if you want to do something different than what you normally do, what you have to do is you have to take an existing habit, something that you do without thinking about it, and you have to make that response the stimulus for the new habit. So if I can give you a really simple example of this, let's say that you have a habit that whenever you meet someone new, you smile and you reach out your hand, and that's a good habit, right? You're a friendly kind of person. You reach out and shake your hand. So now let's say that what you're trying to do is maybe you're not very good at giving out your business card, right, at these networking events. And you realize, like I do, if I even remember to bring the business cards, I come back with as many, it's like I forgot to hand them out, right?
Well, that could be a good thing. We'll discuss that. All right, keep going.
All right, but let's say I want to hand out more business cards,
sure,
right? That's a habit I would like to build. So I'm very good at smiling and shaking hands. So what I do now is I say, every time that I smile and shake someone's hand, I'm going to reach into my pocket with the other hand, grab a business card, and just make it available. And so I connect an automatic habit that I already have, smiling, shaking hands, with the new habit I want to create. And I think about it. I consciously think about it for the first couple of times. And then before too long, it'll just be a habit. I shake your hand with my right hand, my left hand reaches into my pocket, and I bring out a business card. So you have to just connect it to something else that's already automatic.
Well, so I'll tell you the interesting story I just heard along those same lines. So I took a firearms safety course, and the sheriff that was talking about it, he was telling the story of two guys that he knew they practiced Krav Maga, right? Like hand-to-hand combat. And one of the things they would practice every morning, but before they went on their patrol, they would spend a few minutes like disarming somebody, from a handgun. And so they would disarm and then immediately turn it around and hand it back to the partner. Well, one of these cops encountered someone like at a grocery store, with a gun, and
I know where this
disarmed them. And then out of habit,
he handed him back the gun.
Now the bad guy, fortunately, was like, "Oh, this is a setup. You're going to kill me. I'm not taking that weapon." And he kind of came out of his
automatic
habit,
mode.
and it was like, so from then on, like he's like, they would take the gun and keep it on each other. So so it can be that ingrained, right?
Yes, it becomes just this automatic response. It usually, habits like that usually do involve a physical component. And so before you can consciously think about it, your body is moving, right? Is making the physical movement that for the next step. That's why it's so powerful. Yeah.
So like talking about handing out a business card, everybody, my daughter, the other day we're driving. She said, "Oh, I'm terrible with names." Like, you're terrible with names because you just said, "I'm terrible with names." And the reality is you're not terrible with names. You never heard the name to begin with. I'm walking up. Oh, I see this person. It looks like somebody I would like to meet at a networking event. And I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible with names. Hi, I'm Wes. And then you'd say your name, right? I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible with names. I never hear your name.
Right.
That's why I'm terrible with names. Right. Like, oh.
Right.
So, but all right, how do we even start though? Because you're probably nervous reaching in your back pocket to grab the card. Oh, how will they perceive me? Maybe they're going to think I'm pushy. I'm handing out my business card like I'm some kind of diva. I mean, how do you got to talk yourself out of that, right? To even start this new habit.
Yes. So the thing about if you're trying to create a new habit is you have to, as I said, tie it to something that you already do automatically. And it has to be something that's really easy. So if you're nervous, that automatically won't be easy. So if you're nervous about that, then you have to back up. So the habit you need to create is not handing out the business cards. In that case, the habit you need to create is getting rid of the nervousness. Okay. Right. So you gotta back it up until you can identify something that you can do that's actually extremely easy.
Yeah.
And then once that becomes a habit, then you could take it one step further and one step further.
Yeah. I spoke this weekend in Vegas at a real estate investors group, and these people are so scared. These are not typical salespeople, right? These are run-of-the-mill people. I mean, we have, doctors, we have accountants. I mean, you name it, a nurse I met. I mean, they're not salespeople.
Yeah.
And they're sending out offers, and then the phone calls, and they're terrified. I'm like, relax. It's just a human being. They're not going to kill you. You might say something wrong. You might blow the deal. Okay, great. There'll be another one.
Yeah.
So like in sales, how do we, in that business owner, how do we stay calm when the pressure's on, right? Maybe it's the end of the month, end of the quarter. Man, I got to make this sale. Oh my gosh. How can we calm down to put our best foot forward?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things you can do to calm down. I always think with all of these, especially if we're talking about habits or automatic reactions, the more you know about yourself, the better this is going to go, right? What are the things that calm me down? Because it's different for everybody. So, what are the things that calm me down? What are the things that help me focus? What are the things that help me feel confident? Right. And it just depends. Certainly one thing to do if you actually want to calm down is to breathe, is to take a couple of deep breaths. That actually changes your whole biology. Now, for some people, they may need to calm down. Other people, they may need to get more energized, right? It's not that they're calm. It's just that they're not focused enough, or that they're not coming across as being energetic enough. So you have to figure out, what is it that I am or I'm not doing that's working. So one of the things to do is, I think, again, I'm just all about becoming more self-aware. So in the situations where it had, whatever it is, the sales call or whatever has worked, what was it about that situation that, and it could just be random that you just happen to be talking to the right person at the right time. But there might be other things, maybe, time of day. Does time of day matter for you? Does the way you start the conversation matter? Does whether you've had enough sleep or not matter? Do you need to drink another cup of coffee? Or maybe you need to drink less coffee, right? Because you're too wired. So did it work better when you stopped and asked a question and listened to them? Is that, do you have a tendency to talk too much and so you're not listening enough? So to figure out what is it that works for you. And I really think it's different. I think there definitely I mean, I am not a, sales expert in that sense, but, and I've taken some of the standard sales training years ago. I did, that some of the, and I don't even know if this is true. You can tell me if this is true. I mean, back when I was first learning sales, they used to say, he's getting ready, let's see, the person who you ask for the sale, and then the person who talks first loses, what they used to say. So really just letting there be, quiet space and not being afraid of quiet space. And, and the way that you, I'm assuming this is still true. And the fact that it amazes me how easy it is to not ask for the sale.
Oh yeah.
Right. To never actually say, so, are we ready to fill out the paperwork or whatever it is that, is that step. So definitely you want to know, I mean, there's so much knowledge out there, right, about sales and closing a deal. But I think that from a psychology, behavioral science point of view, to make sure that you really understand the person you're speaking with. Who are they? What motivates them? What are they afraid of? What do they hope for? I think, I was just going to say, I think these days, authenticity, really helps. And I think especially, I do a lot of talking with like millennials and even younger. You
just text them or Snapchat them? Or like you actually, can you
I
speak
actually
to them?
talk to them.
Get out. Shut the front door. You're magical.
And it's interesting because I remember I was talking to a young person, and I was talking about, being an expert, right? And whether how do they feel about experts? Because baby boomers and even Gen Xers, they really like experts, they want to hear from an expert. And my sense initially was that the millennials, which I'm giving myself away, I'm not a millennial, okay? You probably knew that.
Come on now.
You probably knew that. I'm in the generation younger than the millennials.
I don't think, you and me both. This is the post-millennial podcast. But
I was curious about, what do they think about experts? And they said, well, we like experts. And I said, really? They said, yeah, but the question is, who is an expert?
Yeah.
So to them, it wasn't about degrees necessarily, or, that you've done all these, things, or you have an education. It has to do with whether you really have the knowledge. And that could be a degree and it could be experience. But if you show that
knowledge or wisdom,
either one, knowledge or wisdom. I mean, they're really just looking for the real deal and authenticity. And that's what matters a lot.
Do you think, isn't that always been true? Maybe to a degree. I guess the older generations they respected authority more, maybe.
Yes.
And that authority could be a degree. But deep down, maybe that got their foot in the door. They would let that expert into their world, maybe. But still, weren't we always looking for the truth, for that wisdom?
I think yes, but I think the younger generations give you about 2 seconds. Yeah. I think the older people they'll like,
they'll sit and kind of defer to the expert.
Yeah,
and the millennial just call BS.
And right, I'll listen to them, and then I'll decide whether Yeah, and the younger people are just like, you haven't shown me. You got to show me credibility like really fast.
Well, maybe I'm a millennial trapped in a Gen X body. I've never put up with BS, and I've never Like, oh, you got titles and whatever? Great.
Yeah,
show me. Maybe I'm from Missouri. I didn't know it. Show me. But that is good to know. I mean, in general, like as we're selling, if we're marketing to the younger generation, cut to the chase, right? And maybe if we're dealing with an older generation, maybe if the meeting is with millennials or even younger Gen Xers, okay, show up in shorts and flip-flops, but showing up with older Gen Xers or baby boomers, show up in a suit, because we judge each other differently, right? Based on our demographics.
Yeah, we do. Although I think what's interesting is that I think the millennials, it's okay with them if you don't look like them. I think they actually judge. They're not as necessarily sensitive about the generation. I was even worried about that at one point because it's like, hey, I'm not a millennial, so they're not going to listen to me. And I was told by a millennial, no, not true. They don't care what you look like.
Right.
They just care about whether you have real expertise or not.
Right.
So, and I think that's kind of back to be yourself, right? So if you're not normally going to show up in flip-flops, don't do it to impress them because it won't.
Right. Well, good thing that you don't judge because I'm in shorts and flip-flops right now. I've been in California too long.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in Wisconsin and it's snowing outside. So there are
it was like 42 this morning. It was so cold.
I feel
so
bad.
Cold. I'm wearing socks with my flip-flops when I woke up this morning. I mean, that's cold. I'm telling you. But hey, all right. So let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
We're talking about the limbic system. We're talking about fear. We're talking about routines. I want to come back to routines. But, one of the most important classes or courses I ever took was like, I want to say around 2001, I was with this tech company and they let me take this 2-day negotiation class. Yeah. And I got to see things. I finally started seeing things from the buyer's perspective.
Yeah.
Right? Because the buyer might be just as nervous or maybe under even more pressure than the salesperson, right? Because I'm thinking, it's the end of quarter. I got to make my numbers. But that buyer, it's the end of quarter for them as well. They may need to purchase some piece of equipment and use up their funding, or they have their own project and it needs this piece of gear to finish production so they can hit their production numbers, as well. So how can we detect, I'm very cautious about persuasion versus manipulation.
Yes.
Right? I don't want to manipulate somebody. I don't want to lie to them. I don't want to pressure them into doing something that's not good for them.
Yeah.
But people do stand in their own way. And if my offer truly does help them, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, right? I mean, how can I see what's going on, detect, like you talk about fear versus hope. People are, moving, either they're running away from something or they're running towards something, but usually it seems like they're running away from something. That's the more powerful motivator, solving that pain. Are you a vitamin or, are you medicine? They'll run for the medicine. So how can we see what's going on in the buyer and shift things to our benefit, right? To persuade them ethically, morally, to take that action, buy from us, stop being afraid, move confidently into doing business with us.
Well, let me talk a little bit about, there's some amazing research, I think, on decision-making when it comes to buying.
Okay.
So one of the things is that you need to understand whether somebody is making what's called a habit-based buying decision or a value-based buying decision, because they literally happen in two different parts of the brain. And the research also shows that when you're making one kind of decision, like a habit decision, and that's happening in a certain part of your brain, you cannot be making a value-based decision at the same time. If one part of the brain is active, the other part is shut off. So there are some things we buy based on habit, and there's some things we buy that are based by evaluating. That's the value-based, and value-based could be, should I buy this product versus that product? Should I buy now? Those are the value-based kinds of decisions. So what we know is that so that's the first thing. Is this something that someone is purchasing from habit? So if you're dealing with a customer who every quarter, renews with the same order, right? Then unless unless they're indicating they don't want to renew, but if it's just a regular call that you make, you don't want to interrupt that automatic habit decision. So you don't want to throw any new information at them, because as soon as you do, that'll stop the habit purchase, and now they'll be looking at it from a value-based purchase, and that's very different. On the other hand, if this is a value-based decision, like they're trying to decide, is this the right time to buy a new car? Should they buy new or used? Should they buy this one or that one, right? That's all value-based decision. Then what's important is getting them to a point of confidence, because what we know is that when people are confident, there's actually a single neuron that will fire when they're confident, and that single neuron will cause them to make that buy decision. So how do you get them confident, right? And you want to give them enough information to make them confident, but you don't want to give them too much, right? Because if I overwhelm you with information, now I'm not confident anymore. It's like, oh, really? I should read this. I should read this. I should read this. So you have to know whether it's habit or value-based, and then you have to get some indication from them. And you have to talk to them so you know what is it that's going to make them confident that they have enough information to make the correct decision. Now, sometimes it's just that they got to go talk to, their go-to guy, right? I mean, there's people, if I'm making a tech purchase, I go talk to my son, and if my son says, go for it, I go for it, right? Because that's what makes me confident. And for some people, it's like, well, okay, I got to look at the spec sheet. If I see the spec sheet, then I'll be confident. So you can actually ask people, what is it you need to know in order to be comfortable and confident in making this decision? And they'll often tell you,
Crazy,
well, I just got to know that it's, this is the safest car, or, really, I got to go talk to, Harry about it. So, just kind of find out what it is that is making them uncomfortable or not confident, and fill that one little hole.
Yep. I call it close first, then present. So my listeners,
what does that mean?
TheSalesAgenda.com. Y'all go get that one. That will help you. So what that means, on the interview I had yesterday, I was talking about this. So for example, let's say you and I were going to meet and you wanted to get some sales and marketing automation software from me, right? You're considering Infusionsoft or HubSpot or whatever, and you've got a team. So we start talking and you're like, hey, well, I'm interested in evaluating this. Can you come over? Or can we set a time? Either way. Say, fantastic. I'd love to meet with you. Let me ask you something. In the interest of time, would it make sense if we set an agenda for our time together? Right? And whether you're analytical or whether you're a shoot from the hip kind of person, you're like, yeah, okay, sure. And I say, well, look, believe it or not, the ultimate reason, the ultimate purpose for us to meet is just to see if there's chemistry, to see if we even like working together. Right? And I have two simple ground rules. We're open and honest with each other, and either of us can end the conversation at any time for any reason. The last thing I want to do is show up with 87 slides and a 48-page manual, and, two slides into this thing, you realize there's something that's incompatible. It doesn't connect with some key piece of software. So you shouldn't feel obligated. But at the same way, if I hear something that's not a fit, I should end the meeting as well. So is that fair? Right? And so I'm going to have more questions for you than you probably ever thought imaginable about your business, about your web design, about your lead generation, about promotional campaigns, about your staff, about copywriting and Facebook ads. So you may want to write down a few questions for me. And at the end of that, we'll decide what the next steps are, even if there are no next steps. And if you tell me you want to think it over, I'm going to assume you just don't want to hurt my feelings, and then that's a no. And that's fine. We'll just end as friends, and you'll have some information on sales and marketing automation. Sound like a meeting you want to have? Right? So now what I did in there, I mentioned that I'm going to show up with a lot of questions for you. You may want to jot down a few for me. So when I show up, we cover that. I email that agenda to you. I bring it printed. So when everybody's in the room, I pass them out. And I'm like, does this look like what we agreed to cover? Anything you want to change? Nope. Okay, well, let's go ahead and begin. Now, you have to start answering my questions because you agreed to that agenda. Then if I think I can help you, there's the close. The close has already happened. The decision makers are in the room. You've answered all my questions. I now know that I can help you. Now I present. Now I show the different offers. Then you have to tell me at the end. It doesn't mean you have to buy from me, but maybe it's, we would like to do a demo. We would like to have the team run a 14-day trial. Fantastic. But we know what the next steps are.
Right.
Because too many people leave it like, oh, what's the next steps? I don't know. I think they like me. But what are the next steps? I don't know. Oh, my gosh. That's so bad. But I do want to get all the way back to the physical side of things, because we talked about, the brain only has so much glucose, right? It's working to conserve energy. I mean, this is literally in our DNA. It's literally, like deep down, we don't realize that there are no saber-toothed tigers out there to eat us, but we still feel like there are, right? Like at the, core of our being, the base of our brain. Is
constantly evaluating your environment and essentially asking 3 questions. Can I eat it? Can I have sex with it? Will it kill me? That's really what's going on all the time. And that's that limbic part of your, that's the what we call the old brain or the reptilian brain. Yep.
All right. Can I eat it? Can I have sex with it? Will it eat me?
Will it kill me? Yep.
Will it kill me?
Mm-hmm.
I think I heard that Jordan Peterson, I guess he's really blowing up now. Have you followed him at all?
No, I haven't.
He's a clinical psychologist out of University of Toronto.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of books. He just blew up in popularity lately. And I think I heard that from him recently. But it sounds funny, but it's the truth. Truth. We can say, oh, we're advanced and we have, powered toothbrushes, but it doesn't matter. Deep down, our prospects.
We're humans, and this is the way we operate. And it's a good, like I said before, it's a good thing. It keeps us alive.
Right. But that whole thing about trying to conserve, that's why if your email sounds or looks the same, or if you're on the phone, it sounds just the same. Hi, doctor. How are you? How's the weather up in Wisconsin? Your brain's going, I've heard this before.
Right.
From a dirtbag, no good, cheesy, pushy, amateur, rookie salesperson that brings no value. I will continue blogging. I will continue hanging out on social media. And I will go, send me some information. Great. Thank you.
Right.
Because that's the brain, right? The limbic system.
It's like, okay, I'm just automatically, I know that's not something I need, not something I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. It's a pattern. I recognize the pattern of the conversation or the pattern of the email. I recognize it as a sales email or a sales call from someone that I did not initiate the contact, and I'm there. I just say, okay, I'm not interested. I just turn it off.
So that's why we always focus on the headline, right? Or the open big, close big, right? Is that's still valuable, accurate information?
Definitely. Yep.
Got to wake them up. So on the routine, I remember that. You look at like a golfer, and I remember when I was young, before I golfed, I'd see a professional golfer on TV. They got a little 2-foot putt, right? My 4-year-old daughter can hit it that far, right? So it's not a physical thing, but they still they get back, they look sideways, just like it's the 40-foot putt.
Right.
But it's that routine, right, that gets rid of the nerves. Because if I know that the alignment's right and my right foot is correct and my left foot is correct and my right hand is correct and my left hand is correct and my head is correct, then the stroke will be correct and the correct result will happen.
And, with that kind of thing, if you're talking about something that involves a physical movement, you're also talking about something called muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually have a whole series of neuron firings. My kids, when they were growing up, took Suzuki music lessons. I don't know if you know about Suzuki.
Mm-mm.
It's a certain kind of music lesson. It's really amazing. They take just average kids and turn them into amazing players of their instrument. My son did violin. My daughter did piano. And they teach them first to play. Everything is played from memory. They don't learn to read music until later. So I remember one time, it was right before a concert they were going to be doing. My daughter was maybe like 10 years old and was going to be playing this, to me, very complicated sonata that I couldn't believe she could play. And and my son was going to be playing something on violin. And right before the concert started, I asked him, because, I'm a psychologist. I can't help it. I ask these questions. So I said, so what's going through your mind, when you're playing this piece? Like, I asked my daughter on the piano, are you thinking about, the dynamics, like when you're supposed to get loud or when you're supposed to get softer? Like, what are you thinking about? And she looked at me and she said, what? I said, what are you thinking about? She said, I'm not thinking about anything. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I'm just watching my hands play. And I said, you're watching your hands play? She said, yeah. And I turned to her brother and I said, well, you're thinking about something when you're playing the violin. He said, no, I'm just watching my fingers move on the violin neck. And I was like, what? But they had learned it so well, right? That it was as soon as they placed their hand, this is why they would, you'll see concert pianists and so on, and the golfer, they get ready, right? They're in this certain position. Their hands are placed in for the first note, and their brain just goes click, and then it's just, this constant neuron firing that takes them through the entire sequence. Right?
Well, that's why I tell salespeople, and I learned this years ago when I was still an employee, that you don't have to answer every phone call. And they thought, that was just crazy. And in some places, maybe it is. And so I give them the caveat, okay, maybe you do have to answer every call, but you don't have to have a conversation on every call, because maybe you're not in a good place. I see people answer the phones in the bathroom.
Right.
Or, you get up and you're at the office kitchen and, you're hungry.
Right.
You got your hot pocket. It's burning your hand. You spilled a little bit of coffee.
And you're trying to have this phone call while you're doing it.
You grab the phone. Okay, maybe you have to answer it because sometimes real estate, other things, it does matter. So I get it. So it's like, hey, this is Wes. How can I help you? Hey, I'm calling about the property. Hey, you know what? I am not at my desk. Is this the best number to call you back at? Okay, great. Can you give me 5 minutes? Let me, honestly, I just spilt some food on me from lunch. I just need to wipe it up. Let me get to my desk and I'll call you back.
Yeah.
99 out of 100 would say, oh, yeah, that's fine. I want you focused. But if I hear the microwave beeping in the background, I hear somebody in the background eating their Dorito chips, you're not in the zone anyway. So even that physical, it's the piano, right? Let's get set, because people, they're taking calls and they're not in a good frame of mind, and nothing good comes out of that. Sometimes maybe, but you're not setting yourself up for success, even in that physical sales situation. They need a psychologist on their staff, all these sales companies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So final question. You ready for it?
Okay.
This is when I furrow the brow.
Okay. Furrow the brow.
See, we're setting the tone. Okay. So our listeners, they are often driving. They're often on a plane. They're jogging. They're on a treadmill. They're on a mountain bike with saber-toothed tigers coming after them.
Coming at them, yes.
But they're still listening to us.
Okay.
But they can't do anything exactly right this moment. But as a result of listening to this, when they can get to their desk, when they can get to their pad and pen, when they can get to their laptop, what should they do as a result of listening to this to, I don't know, make them a better person, make them a more stable salesperson, make them a better sales manager? You know, what make their website more conducive to converting traffic? What's like a one little nugget you'd like to see them go apply?
You know, I wrote a book called 100 Things. You know that. So now you're going to make me come up with just one. Oh, boy, this is painful. Okay. I would say.
Now, this is just the first thing. It's not the only, but where should they start?
Where should they start? I think they should see if they can identify one habit that they have that they believe prevents them from success.
Okay.
And then change that one habit. I mean, there might be many, but just one. Like maybe it's what you just said. Maybe they have a habit of taking the phone call wherever they are. Maybe it's that they're not getting enough sleep. Whatever it is, to just identify one habit that they think they're missing.
And it probably is something simple like that, right? I think people overcomplicate things.
Right. Look for something simple. Simple's good.
Yeah, because they, I remember Zig Ziglar he had this little segment, and he would say, let me ask you something. Are there 3 things you can absolutely, positively, confidently do today that could ruin your day and your sales career, right? And everybody'd laugh and go, well, yeah, of course. And he'd say, well, okay. Now, what are 3 things you could do? What's one thing you could do to make it better?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then they go, okay, I can take it from there. So it's not that hard, is it? All right.
Got to be vigilant.
Well, very nice. Well, Dr. Susan, all right, I got to get it right? Weinschenk.
Hey, good.
I got it twice. All right. All the way from cold, chilly April,
snowy
Wisconsin. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast. It's been great.
It's been really fun.
All right. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So what'd you think about that, huh? Humans are predictable and complicated. Now, the complicated thing, you probably already know, but the predictable, I talk with people all the time in my sales training. I cover this in the Make Every Sale course. I cover it in my Inner Circle. But people are super predictable. When you know how to elicit a response from somebody, you have a better chance of controlling the conversation and leading it to at least a conclusion. Okay, it's the I want to think it over and send me some more information and I want to think about it. Those kill you. At the end of the day, ultimately, all we want is the truth. Now, hopefully, it's a sale, but at least give me the truth. If you just got more clear yeses and nos, you'd be happier and more productive, more profitable, more productive, more efficient, better at your job. Your business would be growing. So people are super predictable, but you are eliciting responses from your prospects by doing little things you don't even know you're doing. In poker, they call it a tell. You have a nuance, a subtlety, a physical reaction, a verbal reaction. You're doing things that are actually inviting objections into your world. And you've got to get rid of those. And it's super tough to do it alone. I've mentioned the story before. When I got serious about golfing, I went to a golf pro that filmed me. When I got serious about speaking, I went to a speaker coach that he would videotape us and we'd go sit in a room and watch ourselves. When I got serious about sales training, when I hired Steve Clark, he had me record my phone calls. So it's easy to see what changes need to be made from the outside. That's the old adage, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. You're doing things you don't even know. And so if you don't trust somebody to help you observe and record and evaluate, you may still grow, but it will be much tougher than if you got some help. Okay? So get some help. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's the Make Every Sale program. Maybe it's the Inner Circle. Maybe it's private coaching. Maybe you've got a coworker, a peer, a boss that you get along with there at the company that can help. But get some outside help. You have to understand, what are your habits? What are your tells? What are you doing that is limiting your growth? And I guarantee you're doing things. We all do. So get serious about that type of growth, and you will experience serious income growth. You will find yourself working less. You will find yourself being less stressed, having more fun, closing bigger deals faster. But you've got to get that type of help. And you're listening to this episode, you listen all the way through. So that tells me you do have some type of motivation. You are looking to grow, but it's not enough just to listen. You've got to apply yourself. That's why I ask my guests all the time, what one thing do you want people to do? So take that action. Find someone, even if it's just joining our free group, theimplementors.com. But you have to engage, right? You have to ask questions. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. And then, like I said, take it a step farther. Join the Make Every Sale program. Join the Inner Circle. Get the help you need from people that have already made the mistakes. I've been doing this in sales for 22 years, had my own business now since 2006. I have made a lot of mistakes, and I am still in advanced coaching programs. And I bring my clients the lessons that I'm learning. Okay, so I don't say that I have all the answers, but I'm always searching, I'm applying, I'm testing, I'm failing, I'm rinsing, washing, adjusting, repeating, moving forward. So get that help, all right? Now, I would like to give you a gift. I mentioned this last time, but if you go to iTunes or Google, wherever you listen on, and leave a 5-star review and take a screenshot of that, email it to me, wes@thesaleswhisperer.com, and I will send you a PDF copy of my sales training flashcards. I sell these things for $20, the physical edition. But send that to me. This is over 50 pages of the toughest objections that you can get and responses. Okay, ways to handle it and defeat those objections. So you will sell more yet again. Okay, so leave a review, take a snapshot, send it to me, wes@thesaleswhisperer.com, and I will send those to you. Thanks for listening. Now go sell something.